Hello students, here I am today with another lesson on civics, that is the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. In India, we follow a parliamentary form of government. In a parliamentary form of government, the President is the nominal head, while the Prime Minister is the real head and is the most powerful institution in India. The Prime Minister is appointed by the President after the general election. After the general election, when a party leads with majority number of seats, has a leader, and the leader of the majority party is chosen by the President to be appointed as Prime Minister. So, the President appoints the Prime Minister, one whose party has more seats than any other party. For example, after the general elections, if a certain party gets the number of seats, for example, 275 seats, such a party can be called by the President to show the leader, and the leader of such party is appointed as the Prime Minister. Why this 275? In Lok Sabha we have 545 seats. Divided by 2 plus 1 number of members is required. So it is 272.5, that is rounded off to 273 plus 1 is 274. If 274 or more seats are obtained or secured by any political party, such a party leader is invited by the President to be the Prime Minister. Suppose after the general election no party gets this majority. There are 4 parties, for example. The number 1 party may be BJP and gets 200 seats. 2 may be the Indian National Congress, gets 170 seats. 3 may be BSP, gets 120 seats. And 4 may be CPI, gets 100 or some number of seats, maybe 60 or 70. This is coming to 80 seats perhaps, 080. In such a case, the President should not invite the leader of this party to become the Prime Minister. Though there is a marginally higher number of seats, they don't have the required number, that is 274. In this case, the President may call number 2 party with 170 seats to form the government by joining hands with another party. Number 2, number 3 party may join together, so it makes 294 seats. With 290 seats, they may form the government by making an alliance. Such an alliance forms a government is called a coalition government. A coalition government is that when 2 or more parties join together and form the government. That is how the Prime Minister is appointed, and this is the discretionary power of the President. The President may not invite this party, may invite any other party that he wishes by asking them to show the majority by joining hands with any other party, so that the required number of 274 or more will be made. And such a party when runs government, this government is called coalition government. Then we shall learn about the formation of the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers is appointed by the President of India on the advice of the Prime Minister. After the Prime Minister is being appointed, he has his party members. His party members' list of names is presented to the President to appoint the Council of Ministers. So it is the advice of Prime Minister the President appoints the Council of Ministers. You may have question, who appoints the Council of Ministers? It is President. On whose advice? It's a Prime Minister. Besides the members who are elected in the general election to Lok Sabha, or a few members of Rajya Sabha can be appointed as ministers called the Council of Ministers. Besides this, a non-member of parliament can also become a minister in the council. Who is a non-member? A member of the leading party lost the election but is a renowned member. So the Prime Minister as the leader may wish to appoint him as the minister. In such a case, such a non-member may become a minister but has to be elected or nominated within the 6 months of his appointment. Otherwise, he or she will have to lose power. That is how a non-member of parliament, despite losing election, can become a minister, but he or she has to be elected in the next few days within 6 months, or to be nominated to any of the two houses to continue as a minister. There are questions usually, can a non-member of parliament become a minister? The answer is yes. And how? It is the member who is known by the Prime Minister to be a faithful person and has ability to become a minister. Such a member is appointed as minister but has to be elected or nominated within the 6 weeks. Then it's the category of ministers in the council. The Council of Ministers has 3 categories. Category 1, the cabinet ministers. They are top-ranking ministers of the council. The second category is the ministers of state. They are the second rank of the ministers who assist in the work of the cabinet ministers. And the third category is the deputy ministers, who also assist the other 2 categories of ministers. The strength of the Council of Ministers should not be more than 15% of the strength of the Lok Sabha. The Lok Sabha has its strength 545 now. Not more than 15% of its strength can be in the Council of Ministers. So altogether some 75 to 80 members can be in the ministry. And the top ranking ministry is the cabinet ministry, and there are at present some 25 ministers are there. These are the 3 categories of ministers in the council. Next comes the tenure or term of office of both Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers hold office during the pleasure of the President. If the President of India is pleased at their work, they will continue. If otherwise the President is not pleased, he receives a report from the Prime Minister about the wrong functions of the ministers. They can be removed. Otherwise, they may be removed by the members of Parliament by passing a no confidence motion. So, their tenure of office is dependent on the Prime Minister and the President. As long as the Council enjoys the majority support, they remain in office. It may be full term of 5 years. If they enjoy the majority support, they can continue. If a no confidence motion is passed, they will have to lose power. The collective responsibility or collective response, collectively they are responsible to the Lok Sabha, because most of the ministers in the council belong to the Lok Sabha. Next, the functions of the Prime Minister and the council. The first and foremost function of the top ranking ministers is the policy making. They make policies for both external affairs and also internal affairs. In internal affairs, they make policy for our defense, for our finance and education and so on. Not only they make the policy, they also implement. Another function is that they implement the policies that they make. They coordinate the various work of the ministers. All the ministers of the cabinet coordinate amongst themselves. It's not that the minister related to finance or minister related to defense alone will look after his or her department. Alone will look after, but other ministers are also to support him with majority. Otherwise, if one of the cabinet ministers or any one of the council of ministers disagree to the policies made, disagree to the implementation of those policies, it will lead to the failure of the ministry and they will lose power. Next comes the appointment. Who appoints the Council of Ministers? The Council of Ministers is appointed by the President. But in their function, they make some appointment, as we had learned, the President's executive power of appointing the judges of Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of Supreme Court, the governors of various states, and the chairman of the Niti Aayog. All those are the appointments made by the President, but in reality they are being advised and suggested by the Council of Ministers headed by the Cabinet and the Prime Minister. The Cabinet also chooses the ambassadors to various countries. We have to send ambassadors to various countries to look after the Indians that may be living there or going for trade. So these ambassadors are also being appointed by the President on the advice of the Cabinet and the Council of Ministers. Next in the category is the legislative powers of the Cabinet. The Cabinet is headed by the Prime Minister and they initiate almost all the bills in the House. 95% of the bills are initiated by the Cabinet. They are also known as official bill or the government members bill. The bills that are initiated by the ministers are known as official bills or the government members bill. 95% of the bills in the House is initiated by the Cabinet. The Cabinet pilots the bills through various processes of legislation. They need to check them through various people. There are committees for this purpose and the committee is responsible to the Cabinet and the Cabinet secretaries look after them. There is a source of information as a legislative power. The ministers answer to the questions to the members in the parliament. Because they are answerable, they are supposed to answer in the parliament. This is a source of information that the ministers give to the members of parliament, and members of parliament must intimate to the people of their constituency. Hence, they are source of information. The cabinet ministers or the council of ministers is a source of information. Next comes the cabinet ministers is instrumental in planning and amendment to the constitution. If the constitutional terms are found to be changed, a new term or law has to be added to the constitution, or the old laws may be removed. That is called an amendment. The amendment of the constitution is also initiated by the cabinet ministers headed by the council of ministers. Next comes summoning, proroguing or dissolving the house, that is Lok Sabha, or only summoning the parliament, both houses, is also a power of the cabinet headed by the prime minister. We have learned that summon, prorogue and dissolve is a power of the president. The president does not do it himself. He receives order or advice from the prime minister and the cabinet, and then he summons or prorogues or dissolves. So in reality, they are the powers of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Next is presidential address. We had learned this is not the residential address I had said. The Cabinet prepares the speech that the President gives on the opening day of the session. This is known as presidential address, and all that the President speaks is given in written by the Cabinet Ministers. The Cabinet Ministers write and give to the President to read them out. Even though some of the terms are not like the President, he has no power to alter or bring any changes to the address written by the Cabinet. Hence, it is proved that the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers is more powerful than that of the President. This is what we have learned as the powers of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. The next of the powers we shall have in the next class. Stay happy, keep learning. Bye-bye.